Hi, everyone. I know most of you, but just in case you don't, my name is Rebecca Tamel, and I'm the Education and Outreach Coordinator here at the Chapman. And today we are having, usually for Conversations with the Past, we have a lecture. But today, because of it's our 60th anniversary this year, yay, I know, we're having a special panel presentation or discussion, I guess you'd say, to discuss kind of 60 years of Chapman history. So just to give you a little background, in 1965, Juliet Allen Chapman donated the DeLong House, which is the house portion of the museum, to be used by the Glens Falls Historical Association. And then that same year, the museum receives its provincial or provisional charter. In 1967, the museum opens under the name the Museum of the Glens Falls Historical Society. And then it changes to the Chapman Historical Museum in 1980. Then it's like 2020, we've become Chapman Museum, somewhere around there. All right, so to celebrate 60 years of being a museum, we've brought together some voices from both the past and the present. And on our panel tonight, we have our current director, Nicole Herwig. We have, yeah, former director, Lisa Simpson Lutts, and former curator, Mary Sayers Doeden. So I'm not going to go too much into introductions for them because that's going to be our first question, but I just wanted you to see their names and faces. So these women are going to share favorite memories, favorite exhibitions, standout collection items, maybe some behind the scenes stories. We'll see. Maybe some of them. And just, talk about their time working at the Chapman. So I usually don't get to participate, but I'm going to be moderating tonight. So I'll be asking, oh, yay. I'm so excited. So I'm going to be asking the questions and we'll kind of just go down the line and each woman will share their answer. With that, we'll get started. All right. I feel like I'm hosting a TV show. All right. So Nicole, can you start by introducing yourself? Could you tell us your name, the years you've been here at the Chapman, the role you have or held, and a little bit about yourself? You can talk about your family, past positions that you've had, and anything else you'd like to share.
Sure. Hi, I'm Nicole Herwig. A lot of you know me here. I've been with the museum for 3.5 years. Do you believe it's been that long already?
Still coming in tomorrow, right?
I'll be here tomorrow, but I took off Friday. So I do consider this my community, even though I live in Saratoga Springs. I was previously at another museum in town, so I've been involved for almost a decade with this community, and I really enjoy it. As I mentioned, I live in Saratoga Springs with my husband Mark, 4 dogs, and numerous kids at different stages of their education and careers that are in and out. And we're very close to being empty nesters, but we're not there yet. Which is good. Also, just enough time alone. we like a little bit of action.
Okay. Do you want to pass the mic to Mary and she can introduce herself? You can just hold it. You don't have to clip it on each time.
Okay. My name is Mary Sayers. I grew up in South Glens Falls. I'm a South High graduate. And I worked here for a little over 3 years, about the length of time you've been here, as a very young person, late teens to 20. I worked first under Joe Cutchell-King and then under Gail Ratu, former directors. Yeah, it's all right. I haven't. In 1986, we moved to Missouri, great state of Missouri, as I refer to it, to Kansas City, but this will always be home. And so I come back almost every year, stay up at Weowalk on Lake George and visit my old friends and keep in touch with, staff and other people at various institutions that I've been involved with. I've been involved with a number of historical things in this community, the Jane McCrae exhumation in Fort Edward. I've dug with Dr. Starbuck a number of times. Worked here. My title was museum volunteer. You honor me by calling me the curator. that meant that I did everything from emptying the trash to curating, helping for kids.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So my professional life after here, I became an architectural historian. specialize in architectural history, historic preservation. I've done a little bit of digging, but I'm not a qualified archaeologist that I would dare run a dig, anything like that. Worked disaster response from the 1993 floods in the Midwest through Katrina.
Wow.
Katrina was my last. Then I went to work for a different environmental engineering firm and did all sorts of compliance work, historic preservation, history, compliance work for them. And I'm now semi-retired, and I'll do some pro bono stuff for deserving people. That's brings us pretty much up to date.
Wonderful.
Cool. Okay, hi, I'm Lisa Simpson Lutts. I was Lisa Simpson when I worked here. I worked here from 1994 to 1998 as executive director, and currently I live in Penobscot, Maine, which is just a little south of Bar Harbor. So, most people know where Bar Harbor is. I'm the recently retired director of the Castine Historical Society, which is a historical society in Maine. In the field for 40 years of doing various museum work. I still have my hands in it. I'm like Mary, semi-retired. I work from home for an organization called Atlantic Black Box, which works to uncover the history of slavery and indigenous people in New England. So that's what I'm doing now and love it. Married, there's hubby over there. Yeah, so that is, and you'll find out later how I got here.
Good segue, because how did you first hear about the Chapman and what inspired you to join the team?
I first heard about the Chapman when the Arts District was pretty actively doing things in town, and I was at the Hyde Collection, and we're just familiar with the other cultural institutions in town. So I knew about the Chapman. I did know it was a small staff, and not everyone was part-time. So that's pretty much, not everyone was full-time. There were some part-time folks here, and I'd heard some buzz from my mother-in-law, who's very active in the area, that the Chapman is a gem, and it used to be part of her tours and everything else. But I think it just wasn't out in the community as much, so I wasn't as familiar with it as I should be, being in another museum in town. So yeah, I was interested in the Chapman, and hearing of its potential. It was, I was interested in knowing more once I saw a position opening at the Chapman, and then I found out more, and had some visions of what it could be.
Nice. All right.
I was in first grade
We hear that a lot.
at Harrison Avenue Elementary School in South Glens Falls, and they brought us here for one of the school tours. So I've pretty much always been aware of it all my life.
That's awesome.
So, and it's seen a lot of changes over the years.
Awesome.
I was the director of a small house museum in Berkshire County called the Bidwell House, and that was my first director job. I was 12. Looking back, I felt like I was 12. And I had been there for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, but I was the only staff person, which really is hard. And I wanted to move up the ladder. So when this job became available, I saw it advertised, and we have museum newsletters that advertise jobs, and I also knew somebody who was working here at the time. So I applied and got the position, and yeah, so it was really wanting to move. It was helping me move up to become the director here. I was excited. There was more staff. I could work with people and not just myself, which really gets old.
Absolutely. All right. So moving more into kind of the day-to-day stuff, were there any collection items that were acquired during your time here at the Chapman that you were particularly excited to bring in, and what made them significant to you or the museum?
Well, that's easy for me. I've only been here 3.5 years. And a very large collection did come in. It's the Bronco and Charlie collection. We were here the collector of the Bronco Charlie artifacts actually contacted the museum because she called us first because evidently she had an exhibition here, probably on your watch, back in the 90s. And, of course, that piqued my interest. Bronco Charlie is a very local character and really just cool folk art that he created. I agreed to go look at the collection and talk with the collector because it was being sold. It wasn't being donated. There were 250 pieces of artwork. So having seen it, I was really impressed by it. I brought it to the board and thought it was really important that we get this collection. It was important to the community. It was in Massachusetts at the time. It belonged here. He lived here. He was active here. He raised children here. So the board agreed and, supported the purchase, but, we had to raise money for the purchase. So in doing so, it was decided to have each piece adopted by members of the community. So that was a way to get donations. So you would adopt one of these 250 pieces, choose it, and we had adoption fees attached to them. And so if a piece was adopted, then forever on on the label, the person adopting that piece would be recognized as pivotal in bringing that piece into the museum. So with the campaign, we did it. We raised enough money to bring the collection home. So is it done being cataloged yet, Maureen? Or
Done. It's in its column.
Okay, all right, good. So yes, that was very exciting.
Nice, excellent.
Probably my favorite piece is a Purdy dresser that is upstairs. The Purdy family were furniture makers in Glens Falls, and they made coffins.
Wow.
And came up one week that there was a Purdy piece going to come up for auction, and didn't want to lose it. Wanted to have an actual piece of local work in the museum. It belonged here. And so the then director, Gail Ratu, got hold of, I believe, the board, because we didn't have any money to go out and make purchases. And I believe one of the board members donated the funds to get that. But Mr. Purdy was kind of interesting because he apparently got chased out of town for being a resurrectionist, as well as a furniture maker and coffin builder. So that's the story so far as I know it. I'm sure there's been more research done since then, but it's a beautiful piece. And take a look at it if you haven't recently.
Cool.
It's upstairs. Mhm.
Wow.
The 1858 bedroom.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's an 1840s piece. Yeah.
Okay.
I had a hard time with this one
Uh-oh.
because I really couldn't remember what came in.
Mm-hmm.
But then I remembered the terracotta piece when you walk into the entrance. Look up. I mean, like my friend, I was telling my friend Anne about it, and she said, I never look up there, which is sad. So this is the terracotta piece that was at the original Glens Falls Insurance Company. It was here. It didn't come in under my watch. It was here. It was in storage, and no one knew what to do with it because it is so big and so heavy. And so I was here when the edition was created, and I said, hey, wouldn't this be cool over the entrance door? How can we figure out how to put it safely up there so it doesn't fall off? And the architect figured it out, and it is there. And it's a beautiful piece. It's got the falls. As you leave, look at it. It's just an amazing piece. So I'm glad that it now has a home and isn't just stuck in storage. So that was the piece I remembered.
That's great. Wow.
As well as I'm sorry. And then the bridal dress.
Oh.
So yeah, when I walked in, I'd forgotten about the bridal dress. When I was director, the woman who got married in that called us and talked to me on the phone and said, I have my wedding dress. I'm like, oh God. Please no. And then she told me the story about how she got married in World War II and they didn't have fabric, and her husband to be had brought home a parachute that they turned into the wedding dress, which was very common for brides in that time period because they couldn't get fabric.
Right.
So that was fun to be able to go, oh yeah, I remember that.
That's awesome. Very cool. It's a sign. All right. Well, thinking back, which exhibition stood out as your favorite during your time at the Chapman, and why?
Well, the one that's up now is pretty special. It's really, really a great exhibition. And there's something for everyone there. And the touch screen is really great, what you put together for some engagement. And I get to listen all day to my husband's voice narrating
That's
the
right.
video. But I think, again, I'll go back to Bronco Charlie. That was a very special exhibition because it was something that involved the whole community. And here, like I mentioned before, we put up the labels recognizing every individual that helped make this come true. And we put little sticker stars where there was the donation. The exhibition was just wonderful on the eyes too. It was colorful. The pieces, came together in these wonderful little themed section that everything just made sense and was just lovely. That was also the first exhibition that we brought video and audio into the fold. And just about 2 weeks before that exhibition opened, it was found, I think it was on the archive.com site, an audio of a Bronco Charlie interview on radio.
Wow.
It was just 2 weeks before we were opening. And so it was just one of these like finds of like, yes, this is just what we needed to just put a bow on it. So as people would go through the exhibition and just explore his work, you actually heard his voice throughout the gallery, which is really wonderful. And as a bonus, there was so first of all, we got permission to play it because it was out of Red Hook. It was a Red Hook radio station that played it, and it was out of their farmhouse. These folks, had their guests sitting in their kitchen. So one of their sons actually called the museum and said, I was there when Bronco Charlie, was being interviewed. I was as a young boy. And so that was really nice to speak with him. And then he did actually come to the museum and see the exhibition.
Awesome.
Mine will be short. Yes. We're talking 40 years plus at this point. I picked 3, and I can't tell you a whole lot, in detail about each of them, but I do remember them. One was quilts and coverlets exhibition, and I found it very interesting, not so much for the quilts, but for the coverlets. I got very interested in how they were woven and put together in pieces, and how what particular colors were used in that period. These were very early, early 19th century to mid 19th century. And just the whole idea of the itinerant weaver would go around and sell his services and it was always a he, for however long was necessary to make however many coverlets they want. And because they traveled, their looms could only be a certain width. And so these are made in strips. So that we also had one, I believe it was called Dance Hall Days, that was actually a traveling exhibit from the museum in Albany, the State Museum. And then we added things to it, talking about local theaters, and it was all about vaudeville and entertainment.
Wow.
The late 19th century, early 20th century. And we had a lot of opera houses and theaters and things in Glens Falls, and we still do. We're lucky. And then the last one, Gail Ratu, when she was director, did a lot to really promote Seneca Ray Stoddard. That was the first time it had really been put on exhibit, and postcards were made for the gift shop. And, the gift shop, Seneca always sells in the gift shop. So those were the three that I remember well and that we had good turnout for and that I found to be very interesting.
That's great. Wow.
So my favorite was when we did a Dick Dean exhibit. So I did theme years. So a year with there were 3 exhibits a year, and they all had a theme. And that year was tourism, and here in Lake George. And I had gotten to know Dick, and he had shown me his archives, and I was like, whoa, wow, okay. And I just asked him, could we do an exhibit? And he said, sure. So we did an exhibit. I think we called it something like "Wish You Were Here." Richard Dean and 20th Century Tourism in the Adirondacks. It was very popular, and we focused really on 20th century tourism and that whole year. Then the another one was Happy Trails: A History of the Dude Ranches of Warren County. Super popular because people had grown up, and as young people, there were still people who went to the dude ranches, remembered going to them, having dates at the dude ranches, staying at the dude ranches and loving this area, and so moving here. And one of the things we did as a program with the dude ranches, we did tours of the remaining ones. All the remaining dude ranches were sponsors of the exhibit. And one night we ended with a reunion dinner where people came from all over to have a meal at one of the ranches. I can't remember now which one it was, and talk about what it was like to stay, in the summer at a dude ranch, or to work at one as a waitress or as one of the cowboys. And it was really popular, and it showed to me how much, memory, when you can remember the history, that is just really impactful for the people who go see the exhibit. It creates a lot of conversations. Whereas, when you see an exhibit about older things, you're interested, but it didn't happen to you.
Right.
So that was really fun to do that year's worth of exhibits.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So during your time at the Chapman, was there a particular program, I'm going down a notch now, that you felt was especially effective or engaging, and what made it stand out to you?
Well, I see all the work that Becca puts into all the children's programs that we have here. It's a lot of work to do the family craft, games on the lawn. Remember those? And story time at the museum. And sometimes a lot of kids don't come. I mean, our conversations with the past programs are usually very, very popular. Full house all the time. So I'm really excited about how From the Collection is going. So this was a new program that was started last summer. Had a little bit of funding from the Charles R. Wood Foundation, and with that and help from Becca's mom.
Mostly my family funding this.
Yes, it's Becca's whole family is involved with this. But what it is, it's a children's program that's recorded live via Zoom. And then, well, it's recorded and it's live via Zoom. So while it's live, not a lot of children were logging in. It was mostly Gloria. And occasionally it was me.
It was great. We appreciate it.
But it was so fun. It was so well done. Lots of research went involved. Maureen's involved in bringing an object up from the collection, or 2 or 3. But what we found out was, as soon as we uploaded it to YouTube, all these children were engaging with the program. So, I mean, just the last one that we had, it was like the next day there were 50 views from children that were reaching outside the museum that aren't able to come. So we are getting that children's programming in, and that feels really good. So it's cumulative too, right? So this, programs that were up, one of them has 300 or something views, doesn't it? It's like,
yeah,
yeah.
it's a lot.
So kids are watching it. We're reaching kids remotely, which is really wonderful because sometimes just the children don't have access. So just in those days where, Becca has a book picked out and things to share and everything for the story time, and no children show up, it makes us feel good that we do have from the collection that's really has some legs right now. So right now it's my superstar program going.
Enjoy doing
Yeah,
it.
it's really fun.
Fringes, I'm sure, every time. But
But it's also the energy of Maureen and Becca on the screen and during the program that, like, I could see why kids would love it. And then Becca's sister is in another room, like as the puppet, like really snarky puppet making comments. It just works in like this just organic, beautiful amateur way.
they're sure.
That yeah, so it's like it's not something you're going to turn on the TV. It's
That is
empty. It's
true.
like it's very real and unique, and it's really great. So
Oh,
check it out.
Thank you.
I have two that I remember. One, I believe, actually took place when you were director. It was after I was not working here and was living in Kansas City. The first one that I remember, and I don't know that it's not really a program in the way
It doesn't have
about
to
what
be.
you were just
Yep.
talking about, but every year we had Christmas Past.
Yeah.
And I got to participate one year and dress up in costume and take people through. Yeah. Yeah. And I have the picture on my phone when I was young and blonde and able to fit into those costumes. But it was really meaningful because that really brought a lot of families
Yes.
into the museum, and the kids just loved it. And the museum was decorated for Christmas, and they had the old toys and things displayed. And so that was really enjoyable. And we were serving food and just doing things that we didn't do in the normal course of our duties. And then the second program that I remember participating on, I was out here working on a project for the Air Force Base closure up in Plattsburgh. And I think you may have had an exhibit on it. It was early industry in Glens Falls. Okay. And they had tours. You guys had set up tours with the, oh gosh, this is terrible. Lime. Junta, thank you. Lime. And the old, well, still the cement company. And we toured the quarries, and then we went to the lime quarries, and they still have, at that time, they had the old, yeah, I believe it was 97. So you were here, right? Yeah. Yeah, they still had the old wagon scales and everything right there that they would weigh the limestone loads on. And it was a fascinating, and no place that residents ever get to go see. It was really special. We got to
Very cool.
be special people that day. So yeah, that really stuck with me. That was some of the better tours that I've ever.
Okay,
Great.
glad you enjoyed it. Yeah. No memory of it whatsoever. All right. Well, what I did think of one that I'd forgotten about. Do you all remember the American Girl dolls and how popular they were?
Yes.
So it was the height of the popularity, and we came up with the idea of doing an American Girls doll exhibit, which was in here before. You know how we could have like little exhibits in this room, couldn't we? After the yes, and so we did an exhibit. And then we did a series of programs that we had like 50 girls at every single program. So for each doll, and I think there were 4 or 5 dolls, it was different time period, we would have a tea for each doll, and the girls would come with their dolls, and we'd have a little tea, and they'd show off their dolls, and they'd see the exhibit. I think we did some crafts. Yeah, each doll, we did a craft that was appropriate to that time period. And then we found out that we were breaking the copyright laws by doing the American, because other museums started doing them.
Yeah.
I mean, we weren't the only one. I think I'd seen it in another museum, and they started coming down on museums. And I think we got through the whole program on the slide. In fact, I remember we could not use the term American Girl doll. That was it.
Right.
So we had to come up with another name so we wouldn't infringe on copyright. Hugely popular. The young kids just absolutely had a blast, and we did too. it was so much fun.
That-
Never. I don't remember, but it was just enough of a change that they couldn't come after us. I mean, and we also thought.
The little Chapman. Yeah, yeah. That was my entire childhood. I would have died.
Yeah.
if you had not. Yeah.
It's such a great way to introduce young girls, at least, to history.
Yeah. That's how I learned history in the beginning. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know what I'm doing next summer. No. All right. What would you say was the most significant challenge you've encountered while working at the Chapman, and how did you approach it or overcome it?
I wouldn't say other than funding that's a significant challenge that's just ongoing. So I know everyone knows that, but coming on as a new director, following a retired director that was here for 23 years, had its challenges. The museum, had its pace, its cadence, and just way of running that everyone was quite comfortable with and hunkered in, whether it's staff or volunteers, board. And I came in with a completely different management style, vision, and list of things to do. So, getting that moving, without hearing, well, that's not the way it's been done 23 years. That was a little bit of a challenge, and that's also now gone away because I came in here with completely fresh eyes because I didn't know how things were going for 23 years. So that's what I had going for me. So there was not any kind of inclination to step in and take things over because I really didn't know how things were done. So little challenge, but few bumps. But then we just got into a whole different and new groove just fine.
Very good.
But one of the things that I found most challenging were the questions that I would get asked. I had to be both a generalist, and every time I was cataloging or accessioning items, I had to become a specialist in that particular thing. One of my, I have two. One day I got a phone call from a gentleman over in Hudson Falls who apparently owned a Chapman clock and thought we were a clock museum, and his clock wasn't running, and he wanted to know if he could bring it over. Did we have anyone be able to fix it? It's really sorry I couldn't help him with that. And then my favorite phone call that I ever got was from a lady who was looking for photographs of her Revolutionary War era ancestors. And I said, "Have you noticed how rare those are?"
A good answer.
Where? So that's because photography wasn't invented until 1836, and if they were very wealthy, you might find some oil portraits, but other than that, you're probably out of luck. But just being able to field anything, keep your composure, be professional about it. And, I was, again, a late teenager to 20, and I looked like I was about 14. So getting people to take you seriously in the first place was difficult. But there were some real doozies that we got to.
Maureen has also gotten that question. Can I have photographs?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Don't have that.
Jeez. Oh boy. So when I arrived, the Chapman was teetering. It was a time of a lot of funding cuts. I guess we had been getting money from both the city and from Queensbury, and I think even there had been state funding cuts, and that we had depended a lot on. And so that was one thing. And the other was nobody knew we were here. There was no publicity going out. There weren't a lot of programs. They were doing exhibits, but they weren't really promoting them. And what I discovered was one of my niches was PR. I discovered I was good at that. And so we just started flooding the newspapers. And this was before social media, guys. So the newspaper was everything and everybody read it. And so we really started getting the word out, and we started doing more programs, more exhibits. And we were increasing attendance, increasing memberships. Memberships have been dropping drastically before I got here. So we were able to increase those things. So it was just basically kind of giving everything a big push. And, so that it was a challenge, but it was good. And I think we got out of that kind of really sort of difficult time that we had gotten into. I guess it would have been in the early 90s.
Yeah.
So
excellent. All right. So how did technology, and technology does not have to be just the computer and all that, how did technology, or does technology, impact the day-to-day operations of the museum during your time here? And were there any significant changes or challenges related to it? Or could even be lack of technology, if you want to include that.
Well, I think we're pretty lucky. I think the team here is pretty savvy with technology. But recently we did really challenge ourselves with bringing an immersive experience to the museum, and incorporating audio, video, actors, projection, sound. I mean, it just really pushing what we know how to do to the limits. So, it's both exciting and challenging, which, great combination. And so in creating this immersive experience, we are hoping to give a little bit of a sense of place and time to our project. So stay tuned. It's almost done. And, it's been a long time coming. So that's our dipping our toe into technology and challenging ourselves for it.
And mine would be the lack of technology.
That's
A
fine.
typewriter, the
Yeah.
telephones were about the only technology we had. We did have one early PC
Wow.
that was still, I think, running BASIC on it. I don't think we'd gotten to MS-DOS even yet at that point in time. So we were grateful for what we had, but the kinds of things they're doing today, we just couldn't even conceive of at that time.
ditto. Yeah, I wrote technology. What technology?
Also a good answer.
I think we all had computers at our desks, but it was for writing letters. I believe the membership database was on Access, probably, really primitive, and I'm always struggling to get mass mailings out. And I don't remember if the collection was on a database, but then I think, well, what was it on? Was it like in a file drawer? Do you know? Do you know? Do you remember binders? Was it binders with accession files on binders? Okay, and that may have been what we. Well, that's good. Yes, I assume that's what we had because I don't remember sitting at my computer and looking at a database. Yeah. Okay. And I mean, in the museum field, that's probably the biggest change is that we have our collection now cataloged on databases. It's, so much better than paper records, so much easier to access. Plus now you guys can access things because we're able to put these online for you, and it's so much better for researchers. So the field has really come such a far way in just for that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But we didn't have it.
Yeah. That's okay.
Yeah.
All right. So did you form any lasting relationships with colleagues, volunteers, or community members during your time here? And if so, how did those connections shape your experience?
What's really nice about this field is it's really other professionals in the field very much support each other. So anytime in my past, whether it was through education, internships, previous jobs, you make these connections, and then you can always go back to the people that you've had contact with that have maybe a different expertise than you do, like how many foot candles and how long can it project on a 19th century photograph? It's like you need those questions answered. There's always someone, I can call and ask that question too. So it's really important in the field to keep your connections because, people do support each other within the profession. I have found.
It's great. Excellent.
I started, as I said, working under Joe Cutchall King. So I maintained ties with him right up until he passed. We were Facebook friends, and I'd always visit him when I came into town and would, see what he was up to. And he'd put me in contact with other people that were working on projects that I would be interested in or that perhaps I could help with. Gail Ratu was director for the majority of my time here. I still stay in contact with her. She, again, has contacts and people that she can put me in touch with. And then Lisa, who we found out we were in the same sorority, different campuses. And I came out and met her one day, and we've kind of kept in touch since then as well. So it's been great. I would add one thing. You were talking about the field being so supportive. It is, but it's also a very small world. You live and die by your reputation in it. So I think it's a really dedicated group of people that always want to try and do their best to adequately represent the history and to take care of their quote customers per se by trying to find interesting exhibits and new technologies and things that they can integrate to make the experience better.
Yes, I made many lasting friendships here, and they're back here. Rick and Ann Fuller. Rick was on the hiring, when I was hired, he was the treasurer, and I distinctly remember sitting in this room for my interview, and Rick was to my side and introduced himself and as Rick Fuller, and I said, "Oh, we must be related because my mother is a Fuller." So yeah, I feel like Glens Falls is home. I come back frequently to visit. So yeah, I made a lot of lasting friendships while I was here, and it's a wonderful place. I love Glens Falls.
Wonderful. All right. My favorite question. Can you share a particularly memorable or humorous moment from your years here that still sticks with you?
Yes.
Uh-oh.
Well, I have to say I wasn't here for it.
Oh.
But I responded to it. So it was one day that I was out. I don't even know why I was out, but we must not have had a volunteer either because Becca was at the front desk. Maureen was up in her office, and a woman came barging into the museum, walked right past Becca. Sorry, I'm telling a story that happened to you.
You can throw me under the bus. It's okay.
And she walked right past her and just said, "I'm going into the museum." And Becca was like, "Okay, maybe she's a member. I'm just going to let her go."
I was new. I was relatively new.
Her first week.
It was not my first week, but I was relatively new.
So she proceeded to go through, found her way to the second floor staff offices, and following an electrical cord. Yes, we had Christmas lights going up the banister from the house, and they had to be plugged in Maureen's office. So it's long extension cord. So she followed it and went into Maureen's office and said, "I have to unplug this." Just nonsense, just talking all kinds of nonsense. So Maureen, and it was only the two of you in the museum.
Yeah.
So Maureen,
and some visitors, but yes, the only two.
that's right. So Maureen shooed her out and called the police.
Well, I told her she had to get
Yes.
up, and then she went up.
Yes.
And then I called the police.
with her lit cigarette.
There's so many things to this
Yeah.
story. I forget.
So when she got to the third floor, she locked herself in
In the
the
attic.
room, one of the rooms up there. Opened the front window and started throwing objects out.
They were not collection objects. They were our
Education collection objects, throwing them out the window.
Okay,
Yeah.
we were like, when did we start the new year?
It was, yeah.
That's right. I was on vacation.
That's
right.
it,
Yes,
that's
thank
it.
you. Yes. So I came back shortly after that, probably next day. I think I came back the next day and called Mahoney and ordered panic buttons. So now we have panic buttons throughout the museum. So
We called
They
it.
had to break down.
Yeah.
They knew who it was though, so she had been into other establishments around town.
and wound up here as her last stop.
So,
But
yes.
the fire department came and did a thermal
Yes.
scan because I was very concerned about the cigarettes. Oh, yeah. So we were all good. I started in the afternoon for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, and you expect us to talk?
I didn't know she was gonna go with that one.
There's no way I can talk that. None at all.
She was like, I was like, oh, that story, okay.
One of my more memorable experiences was the day that I was here by myself. And you could very distinctly, and at this time, this was the gift shop, and then the old kitchen area was a gallery space. And I was sitting back here manning the gift shop, and we had two gentlemen who came to the door and wanted to take a tour. And I said, yeah, that was fine. I let them in. We were open for business. And I said, I'll be with you in just a moment. And I said, if you want to walk down the hallway towards the front, we'll start with the parlor. So I got a telephone call just then, and I had to deal with that. So they were by themselves a little bit longer than I would normally have left some folks. And I started smelling tobacco smoke very strongly. It was decent cigar or pipe tobacco, something of that nature. And I thought, oh my gosh, they're smoking in the museum. You know, we're going to burn down.
Yeah.
So I went running out of the office and down the hallway to really chew them out about it, and skidded because they were both facing me. And they said, you smell that? And I'm like, smell what? This happened multiple occasions.
Wow.
And that's one of the things that happened every so often. We get to
Interesting.
tobacco smoke smell
Okay.
in here. So, yeah.
Okay. So now I've got to top this. So mine was when we did the Dick Dean exhibit, after it'd been up a couple of weeks, and I got a call from New York Times, and they wanted to do an article. They were doing an article, and they wanted to interview me and the curator and Dick Dean. So I thought that was pretty cool. And it appeared on the Metro section front page of the New York Times. And so I thought I'd pinnacled. And then at the time I was staying at Ginny Abbey's house. So I don't know if any of you knew Ginny or if she'd already, left. So Ginny Abbey, who was the big benefactor for this edition, would allow me to stay in her house when they would go to Florida in the winter up on Lake George. So it was really, really great. And I was in her kitchen on a Saturday, and the phone rang, and the man said, hi, this is Joe Blow from ABC Nightly News. And I said, well, first, how'd you get my phone number? And because this is a landline, there's no cell at this point. And the staff here he'd called here and they'd given the number. And I said, oh, okay, like from Albany? He said, no, this is the ABC Nightly News. We wanted to come up and interview Dick Dean and film the exhibit. And the phone drops on the floor because I'm like, what? So they did. They came. It was April, and we had a freak snowstorm.
Oh.
So they film here. We go up to Lake George. They want to film in front of one of the iconic motels. I don't remember which one it was. And they're interviewing Dick, and there's like snow coming down, and but they were cool with it. Okay, we're gonna go with it. And the night it was gonna air, George Burns died. So they bumped us. And, to this day, I hate George Burns. And then they said, okay, we're going to do it next week. And next week, something else happened. And then they called me up and they said, Lisa, we can't air it anymore because there's a snowstorm and it's May and this looks too out of date. So we're never going to air it. Oh, yeah, we were so close. Yeah. But, it was still pretty cool experience. And Dick Dean was just so in his element. I don't know if any of you guys knew Dick. No, you met him. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So it was just really special for him. So I'm glad that it happened for him and me.
And you asked how you were going to top that. Sorry. All right. So looking back, what accomplishment during your time here at the Chapman are you most proud of, and why?
I like to think that there's I created a positive culture in the museum. And I'd like to think that the staff and volunteers and the board are all supported, because we should really like to come to work. And I think I'm seeing that. I can't get Becca to take a vacation day. I
There's a lot
don't think she
going on in
took
the
a
summer.
day last year. I mean, it's like, it's amazing. So I'm proud of that. I'm proud of my team. I'm proud of my volunteers. I'm proud of my board and my community liaison. But yeah, I'm just proud of what we have here. And it's a special place with special people. So that makes me really happy and proud.
I would have to say I'm proud of all of it, everything I did. But particularly because I was so young, I was given a lot of latitude for a person that age and of that level of experience. And the directors that I worked under trusted me, and I performed. And so by the time I changed my major from a double science to American history and vernacular architecture when I moved to Missouri, I actually had marketable skills that I could put down for resume or for internships or for any of those things. And I was just that much farther ahead of my classmates and even graduate students. Because of the museum work, I was allowed to take graduate seminars in museum studies. The first semester I was out there, normally there's a number of prerequisite classes and you have to complete some other things and then be interviewed and then accepted in, and they just shoot me right in. So it was great. And I did my first paper on, don't hate me, the Hyde Museum. So it's a fine arts class. So I had to do fine arts otherwise. Yeah. So that I just enjoyed what I did and that I was trusted to do what I did.
That's phenomenal. Great.
So for me, it was the addition. So when I'd been here, 3 or 4 months, Ginny came into my office and said, I want to donate a significant amount of money to build a new addition. And I kind of looked at her and was like, well, I'm thinking that was not part of the interview. And I said, well, the house needs a lot of work. Because at this point, I mean, literally there was paint peeling off, and the roof it might have been the original roof from when the DeLongs were here. It's such bad shape. And so she said, okay, I'll pay for that. We'll do that first. So I'm gonna cry. And it's just so generous. Okay. So she paid for the painting, which is not cheap, as you all know, and paid for the re-roofing. And because, we had to do it accurately, it was very expensive to redo that roof using tin. And it wasn't just slapping up tin. It had to be in certain types of panels because that's what the original one was. So she paid for that. And then she helped with the capital campaign. We did the fundraising together. She made the initial gift. And then we would go out and raise the money with the rest of the people. So we raised about $350,000, which for the Chapman was unbelievable. We just had never done anything like that. And she had the vision. She knew exactly what we needed. She wanted to have a place where you entered in, because we had basically a little glass corridor that connected the carriage barn with the DeLong house. So when groups would come in, there was no place to put them. There was no place for education. I mean, this was here, and we had education programs in here. So she really had the vision. We hired Bob Joy and did the design, and we got more space for the collection. And it just was amazing. I mean, without Ginny, it wouldn't be here. All right, now I'm gonna cry.
Oh, that's lovely that she did so much. Yeah. All right, our last question. Based on your experiences at the Chapman and beyond, so obviously, other places you worked, what advice would you give to young professionals aspiring to work in the museum field?
Well, I hope the funding situation with the federal funding drying up changes soon in the future. Because when that happens, even if all your federal funding doesn't come to the museum, those who get federal funding are going to start hitting the state funding harder. And then it's going to come down to local foundations and everything else. So it's just, we're just all in a really bad spot right now. So I hope that improves for the future of our field. But I would say to new professionals, try to connect with new cultural consumers. See what they want. The museum field is always changing. We've seen a shift towards the importance of programs over the last decade or so. The new consumer likes to engage with, technology a little bit more. They get bored more quickly. We have to keep reinventing how we do interpretation, and how we want to present programs and exhibitions. So I would just give them advice to just be bold and take chances.
Great advice.
Well, this was really my only museum professional experience. So I would suggest kind of doing what I did. Try and get some experience before you graduate. Make yourself marketable. Learn more about your field. Do some projects. See if you have to be passionate about it, because with the funding situation, and funding is always a challenge, even when things are looking rosy. Make sure that this is something you really want to do. You're not going to go into museum work and get rich off it. You have to love it. And it's the same thing with history and historic preservation. So that would be my advice. I know the field has changed immensely since I worked here. So
it's really hard field for young people to break into. So I'm not sure I'd be very encouraging. There's just not enough jobs for the number of people coming out of schools with museum studies right now. But to be open to going to new places, that is about the only way they're going to get jobs. Because if you say, I'm going to only look for a job here, you're not going to find it. You're going to have to be willing to go somewhere, Idaho or Kansas, because it's just a really, really hard field to break into. And it wasn't that way when I was going in. I mean, if you had a museum studies degree, which I had, you just could get a job. There just weren't enough of us.
Right.
And it's just changed so much.
That's
Great. So never say never. Just go wherever the job is.
That sounds great. All right. Well, that was my final question. Are you guys open to maybe questions from the audience? Yeah. All right. Oh, we can clap too, of course. If anyone has questions, feel free. Go ahead. Oh, Ken's got one.
Ken, you have a question?
You questions?
It seems with this panel, you're in a great position. And you give us some context on the Chapman. It seems like every community has its own type of house museum and those types of things. We're always kind of hearing, the Chapman is sort of a gem. So what makes it? What was your experience that was different in Glens Falls maybe than other places you were?
I think it's really unique that it has the house, but it also has the exhibit space. House museums are also dying. They're really, really struggling. Young people are not finding them interesting. So if we had just kept just the house, it would be really, really tough. So, space for programs and then the exhibits, I think makes this a unique combination for what is essentially a historical society and with just a rebranded name.
Right.
That's my thought.
Yeah.
I think what makes the Chapman special is because everyone that comes in here, they have a story that they connect to something with the museum, either an object that's on display, a photograph. People love their history in Queensbury and Glens Falls, and this is a place where they can meet up with like-minded people that just love history. I mean, so many guests come in and they just get stuck right at that table out there, and they're out there, for 45 minutes, telling you about, their family history and how they're connected to, the photograph in the other room. And they just love that. There is that passion in this community.
Thanks. Okay. All right. Any other questions?
I just wanted to say the house has changed a little bit, but it's pretty much the same for a long time. So people say, oh, I've seen the house, but your exhibits have been fabulous. They've drawn people in, and the exhibits you've had are relatable. It's not like the quilts are pretty, and there was not that long ago a real nice quilt exhibit, but unless you're interested in quilts, but you're drawing in younger people and, men that are interested, like the sports one that you've been, and this one, I think you're drawing in people that can, like you say, really relate to the items where not many people relate to the house. And I think you've really stepped up on that. It's been great.
Excellent. All right. Well, I want to say thank you so much to all three of you for agreeing to come tonight. I really appreciate it. Again, another round of applause. Take it back. And that'll be it.